Sure. Yeah. Who am I? Good question. So I started FinanceRox.com about 3 years ago. I am a blogger and YouTuber, personal finance coach. So really my goal is to help people pay off debt, save more money, and really find more confidence and joy in their finances. So many people face it and it's dreadful. So trying to flip that and really get people engaged. I struggled with financial stress when I was younger. And so it's kind of been my life mission to eliminate that for myself and now helping other people with it.
All right. And as far as your like sort of previous career, can you give us a little background on that too?
Yeah, so I graduated with a degree in accounting and a minor in planning 2 months worth of projects in 1 month. I'm just kidding. That was
That was good. I was like, oh wow, that's actually that's very good. Yeah, sorry, I'm
a
like too
unique,
serious there.
unique minor. No, but I graduated in accounting, started working in accounting and found it kind of monotonous. I really like doing different things all the time. I get bored kind of easily. But I started working at a nonprofit, and thankfully, I was able to kind of switch roles every few years. So I did a little bit of payroll, I did accounts payable, regular accounting, and then I transitioned into financial analysis, data management, project management. Yeah, so a lot of different things. I worked there for 9.5 years, and I just stopped working in March to work on FinanceRox full time.
Very cool. And we could unpack some of this too, but you're in the Bozeman area, and that's where I moved from recently. So I was just watching YouTube videos as I do sometimes, and one of your videos came up, and I checked it out, and I was like, "Oh, Bozeman, that's super cool. It's a small town," and just that alone was probably the one of the main triggers where I was like, "Oh, I'd love to talk to someone from the Bozeman area." So how do you like it there overall? I mean, you recently bought a house, so you're putting down roots, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up here. I grew up in Anaconda. So I know what you mean. It's really nice to meet people from Montana because, there aren't that many of us. And especially like the overlap between, living in Montana and like financial independence. Like I was so glad that you reached out to me. I love talking to people about money. And yeah, so it's been good. Yeah, I like it here. Wish that there was more of a Phi community, which I'm jealous of you because you get to go to MMM headquarters.
Yeah, very. It's strange to be like so close and neighbors with some of the big dogs in the Phi community. So cool. Well, let's move on to some of your accomplishments. So one of the top bullet points is paying off $49,000 in debt. So can you talk to us like where did that debt come from, and how did you approach it? Because that's obviously a huge amount of money.
Yeah, so that is combined for both myself and my husband, and it was mostly student loans. 35,000 of it was student loans, and then we had two vehicle loans and our engagement ring. So yeah, I graduated school, and that was the time the most debt we had was the 49. Right after that, we moved to a farm and farmed for 5 years near Great Falls. And during that time, we didn't really want to rely on my husband's income. So we said, okay, we'll use my income to pay off debt. And then, hopefully we can just reinvest into the farm. And then hopefully someday it'll make money. So we used mostly my income for 5 years to pay it off. And yeah, I think it's a lot of it is frugality and just focusing on like day-to-day actions. I also consider myself to be a workaholic, especially during this time. So that helped as well.
What kind of farm?
So we did barley, wheat, and then we had about 100 cows that each year they would calf and we would sell the calves.
Okay. And I know that Montana is one of the biggest growers for like barley and wheat and corn, and they supply a lot of breweries. So were you a supplier for breweries?
Yeah, I think it was Coors,
Okay.
also primarily.
Very cool. Yeah, and are you a big beer drinker yourself?
I'm not. I like the girly beers, the grapefruit ones, and that kind of thing. My husband loves like, oh gosh, he loves like Belgian White kind of beers, and
Okay.
Yeah, all the dark beers he loves. So
Okay. Well, it's a good thing that you're not, because that would have been a whole other tangent that we would go down. So,
yeah.
all right. So you were doing the farming for about 5 years, and actually I had no clue. So I have no idea, but I imagine that's not a super lucrative business, but I could be wrong. So were you able to like pay off a lot then, or yeah, what was going on during those 5 years?
That was when I first started working with my degree in accounting. So I started out making like 18,000 that first year, but then like scaled up to about 36,000. So we lived very frugally because we were able to pay the full 49,000 out of that essentially. And then my husband, he grew up with farming, so he was knowledgeable about it, and his dad would come out to the farm and give him advice. We also traded equipment in exchange for him working. So like my husband would work on our farm and then head out to their farm, which was about an hour away. Between those, we did get lucky because his dad owned the farm that we leased, and so the ground hadn't been worked as hard as it could have been. So the first few years were very productive. So we ended up after the 5 years, we cashed out with about $230,000. So that's his full income for 5 years. So divide that by five.
Okay, gotcha.
So not massive, but good for being right out of school and good for Montana.
Right, especially sort of smaller towns in general. And I mean, for the people that don't know, in Montana, the salaries are like kind of depressed compared to a lot of other places. Like, I think in with my background in a big city, I could probably make 130, but in Montana, it was probably like 75.
75 is still good. Like, I mean, I think it was like 40 to 50 is our average.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, especially in the Bozeman area. It's very expensive because there's a lot of people that work remotely that have the big city jobs so they could buy big houses.